Any attention? Let's pray. Our gracious Father, we thank you for the chance to be here tonight to discuss this business of our town. We thank you for each one that's attending and the caring and the love they have for their community. Help us in our service and help us to look for these guys. In your name we pray. Amen. Stand, remain standing and pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Gentlemen, you have before you the agenda. And do I have any additions, corrections, or changes in the agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to put on the agenda to speak just before the public comment.
Before what? I'm sorry.
Put on the agenda to speak for the public comments.
Before the public comments? Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Also, item 6 on the business item.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to recommend tabling that item until the session, 20th of May, if possible.
Okay, there's some time constraint issues. I know that item, Mr. Manager, is that something please board?
No, it is not. We can have a session tonight, or we may go for a day, but there is no way possible that we do not take action on that in the 20th and get the insurance in place with legitimate, bid and response from the carriers. It would just be impossible. Push as it is right now.
What says the board of that? Is there more information you need, Mr. Williams, or?
Yes, I was in the process of reviewing and checking references as well that was proposed to us. But I could be complete hopefully by end of this week.
Well, I would say I just don't think we can do that. I don't think we have time. We can talk about it tonight. We can do an open session, we can do a closed session. But we need to take action immediately. I mean, this has been out there for a while. I know the package has been out there for at least 10 days for council to review. I understand time constraints, but we have spent an enormous amount of time going through this. And our backs are against the wall on this. We're talking about a substantial amount of money that the broker has got to go out and find a carrier for our health insurance. It's going to be probably $1 million premium, give or take. And we just can't do that in 15 days or 10 days or whatever. We didn't have our enrollment and our renewal. The staff has checked those references. We've got a report on that and we're in detail. Council, someone do that, that's fine, no problem with that at all. But I'm just saying, we cannot delay this.
Well, we just need it on the agenda to address it when we do it.
So staying on the agenda as calendar and scheduled at number 6. Any other changes or additions? There was an item that was requested for an addition before you for addition to the agenda. The business item number 7, which we had asked the manager to do for us. I think at this time this is for the request for approval of letters to be sent to our local delegation concerning occupancy tax and overlay tax districts. My recommendation to the board would be not to put this on the agenda, but continue to research on it as we talked about in the budget session. And so for that reason, I'm going to ask them to not place this on the agenda this time. Have any problem? Anybody have any problem with that?
I think it was Councilman Harris made some discussions about it and had recommended drafting a letter, so I think it's only appropriate that he has some time to actually look at it and get appropriate information on it.
Again, the manager did follow our instructions, and but I do think something like this needs to have some further discussion, especially with people that's involved. So I would ask that we table that. We'll not put it on the agenda. Okay. We'll have a motion that we approve the agenda with those changes.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, this agenda has been set. Our first item for presentations, which we don't have any, but we'll go into public hearings for RZ 13-01, Pinco Land Company LLC. The applicant is seeking to rezone approximately 10 acres of land from an R20A, which is residential agricultural zoning district, to a B3 zoning district. Property considered for rezoning is located at the south side of North Carolina Highway 210, approximately 470 feet west of this intersection with Skyline Drive, and further identified as Johnston County Tax ID number 150760112B. We have a motion, we go into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is open. Recognize the gentleman.
Mr. Mayor, I think we will have some testimony provided tonight. We may want to go ahead and swear the witnesses in up front.
Anybody who wishing to speak in this public hearing for or against the Pinco Land Company, please stand at this time and face the clerk. Madam Clerk.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
First off, I'd like to mention that the property owner as well as the representative from Pinco Land Company are in the rear of the room. Let me reference you to where we are on this project. This is US 70 West. This is the town cemetery. This is NC 210. This is Johnson Tire right here. And the site is just beyond that. It's about a 10-acre tract in that big farm field that backs up to the south side of NC 210. In your packet, you will find that there's the rezoning application that's in there. It has the basic information of it. There's a statement of justification that was prepared by the applicant, as well as the required finding of fact. All the finding of fact that you need to take into consideration in your deliberation a little bit later on. The owner's consent form, Mr. Denning's signature there for allowing for the application. If we go to page 8 is the staff report. The application is for rezoning the property from residential agricultural to E3 business zoning. The acreage is 10 acres. It's currently, as I said, R28. The environmental proposed rezoning may be located near or environmentally sensitive areas to include designated wetlands in the 100-year floodplain. The site will be subject to the town of Smithfield water management regulations also. If you basically on your map where the tree line is, for just general reference of the 100-year flood event, so the actual open field where most of the construction will be, which is up here, is located above the 100-year flood line, and this is the back old headwaters of the pond that's down there, and this is the new stormwater pond that's proposed. I will let the applicant go into more detail about that. The property considered for the zoning to the north is R20A and R8. To the south, it's R20A. To the east is R20A and B3. And to the west is R28. The property considered for rezoning is currently being used for agricultural endeavors. Rezoning the property to B3 would allow all permitted uses within the B3 zoning district to be considered as future approval, including retail strip centers as well as multifamily housing complexes. Consistency with the strategic growth plan, the proposed B3 business zoning and uses permitted in that district can be considered consistent with the strategic growth plan, which recommends the area to be considered for office and institutional, high-density residential developments. Consistency with the Unified Development Code. Any approved development at this location must be in compliance with the UDO, and the compatibility with the surrounding land uses. The property rezoning would be consistent with the current zoning in that area. Fire protection will be by the town of Smithfield. There will be limited impacts as far as the school, but the school system has adequate capacity for any development that would occur on that property. Parks and Recreation, if the property is developed, will require recreational fees. Assessments for streets, access to the streets will be on NC 210 Highway, which is an NCDOT roadway. Water and sewer will be provided by the town of Smithfield. The electrical provider is Progress Energy. What the council was asked to do tonight is to go through the findings that are provided by the applicant in his application. And on the planning board, April 4th meeting 2013, they voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request to rezone the property from R20A residential zoning district to B3. A couple little other things to take into consideration. You will remember a couple of months ago there was another project that was submitted. A conditional use permit was given for this tract of land right here. That was also for tax credit housing. That's the same program as the tax credit housing. It's a competitive program that's through the state of North Carolina. Well, I'll let them explain it as far as how the funding is, but it's basically two projects considered under funding. I think there were a total of 4 approved in the preliminary applications for all of Johnston County. There's 1 in Clayton, 2 in Smithfield, and 1 in Princeton. How many of those will actually be funded is determined by the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. That's still to be determined and will not be determined until sometime after May, the end of this month. So with that being said, you go through there. There's a survey showing the actual plot of land with the 10 acres on it. It also shows the wetlands and the tree lines. You also have on page 13 the adjacent property notification. And so with that, I'll stand open for any questions.
Any questions from the table?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman back who stood up, is he the applicant?
He is from Pimco Land Company. The gentleman next to him in the green shirt is Mr. Denning. He is the property owner.
Could I just ask Mr. Denning and the applicant, if y'all review the materials in the file, pages 2 through 14 in the agenda. It's just a statement of facts that were reviewed by the planning board, and also the required showing for the rezoning, and ask if you agree with the statements in those materials.
I've not seen the agenda tonight, I'm sorry, so I've not had a chance to read that.
But you're going to need to review it if you're going to make a presentation of what you're asking for.
I really don't plan to make a presentation. I'm just basically here to answer questions if you have questions. I think Paul has done a great job presenting our desires.
Okay, but the problem is the applicant needs to show those facts, and I'm trying to give you that very easy way to do that.
Okay.
If you agree with the materials in the agenda,
I'll take a look at it real quick.
let's do so.
Where can I get a copy of the agenda?
Just so I'm clear, the only thing we're addressing right now is the rezoning petition.
That's right.
We'll get to part 2 in a minute.
And he's gone through the same thing in part 2 also.
Right, but the rezoning stands on its own, has nothing to do with the project that he's building. So
He's got to make
for the
finding of facts for rezoning and conditions.
that is correct, but the rezoning request has nothing to do with what he plans to do.
Just make a statement.
I'm in agreement with what we presented, yes, and the agenda for tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The question I have is just to make sure, Mr. Embler, the permitted request is a permitted request within the requested zoning, is that correct?
You're to only consider the rezoning. It must stand on its own merits at this present time.
Exactly. So my question is that the rezoning request, the request that is being made, okay, this will be a permitted use, right?
When you say permitted
If this
use,
property were to be rezoned.
We're only talking about the actual rezoning, not impacting within the He's asking to have rezoned from the agricultural to the D3.
Right.
So that was largely specifically what the use would be within D3.
Any use in our chart of uses, it is allowed in a B3. If it is rezoned, B3 will be allowed by right of use or as a conditional use.
Right. So my whole point is you started going into the presentation about yourself, about what was going on in the project and type of
I'm sorry,
funding and so forth.
I was in error on that. I should not have done that. I'm sorry.
Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
I know the notice was sent to the adjoining properties. Did y'all hear from any adjoining property owners?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
All right, gentlemen, you see the findings of fact that have been presented to you. Oh, yeah, we have a public hearing first, I'm sorry. Anyone else wish to be heard in the public hearing? Not to have a motion to close the public.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion and a second, those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing is closed. Now you see the required findings of fact before you. Is there anyone particular that you do not agree with or will ask questions or will have a motion on the findings of fact as written?
Mayor, I would make a motion that we adopt findings of fact 1 through 8 as written in the agenda packet, pages 4 and 5.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion to approve the zone. We'll do that motion as well, so those being found, we'll have a motion to approve the zoning as requested. Second. Motion is second, those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Zoning has been approved. All right. We'll do the same thing with the second public hearing with Income Land Company LLC. The applicant is seeking conditional use permit to construct 72-unit multifamily housing complex on 10 acres land located within the D3 business zoning district. The property considered for approval is located on the south side of NC 210, approximately 470 feet west of this intersection with Skyland Drive, further identified as Johnson County ID tax number 150-760-12D. Motion, we open this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now open. Gentlemen?
Once again, I would, testimony may be provided, and I would suggest that anyone that proposes testimony will be sworn in.
Okay. If there's anyone wishing to be heard on this public hearing, please stand before the clerk, raise your right hand for affirmation or
Do you find the public hearing on the other trees shall be God?
I do.
Now that I've got the horse before the, caught up to the cart now, proceed with conditional use permit. The conditional use permit application is shown on page 15 through 19. Page 19 is the owner's consent form. And on page 21 is the staff report. The project is located on the south side of NC 210, approximately 470 feet from the intersection of Skyland Drive. The request for conditional use permit to construct a 72-unit multifamily apartment complex. This is tax credit housing. The acreage of the tract is 10 acres. The present zoning, now that you have rezoned it as B3, the existing use is vacant agriculture at the present time. The proposed use will be a 72-unit multifamily housing dwelling apartment complex with a attached office. There are 3 housing units proposed that will have various configurations of apartment with one community/office building in there. There are also a trail system and some recreational facilities associated with it. The applicant has provided a detailed sketch plan that shows a 72-unit apartment complex located on the south side of NC 210. The plan shows the location of 3 two-story apartment buildings, each containing 24 apartments. Internal circulation is provided by a 2-way drive aisle with 165 landscape parking spaces. Ingress and egress will be provided by the proposed access point on NC 210, which must be permitted by NCDOT. The plan indicates a plant buffer along the east and west property lines. That buffer will also have to be provided along the southern property line in the form of existing vegetation. A stormwater detention pond is shown located on the south side of the project. Amenities are shown on the plan and include the playground, seating areas, a covered picnic area, and internal sidewalk network. The consistency with the future land use plan has been identified this property as being suitable for high-density residential development. The consistency with the UDO, if the development complex is permitted within B3, all conditions of the UDO will have to be met. The proposed multifamily apartment complex is adjacent to similar multifamily housing developments and conveniently located near shopping and other amenities. It is unlikely that negative impacts or existing and future surrounding uses will occur, provided that adequate buffers and screening are installed in accordance with the UDO at the time of development. A goodly portion of Skyland Drive development is some form of multifamily housing or senior care housing. It's some form of multifamily up there. Landscape and buffering. The landscape buffers, parking lot landscaping, and building foundation planning all will be required by the UDO. Signs, the development identification sign is allowed near the entrance. Here again, the town of Smithfield will provide fire protection. Recreational fees will be assessed for this project, which based on the previous projects that council has looked at, multifamily is $700 per unit. Access to the project will be from NC 210. Water and sewer provider will be the town of Smithfield, and Progress Energy will provide that. When considering the conditional use permit, the planning board and the town council shall consider the finding of facts. A conditional use permit which fails to meet any of these findings shall be deemed adverse to the public interest and should not be approved. The applicant has addressed the findings expressly established in Article 13, Section 13 through 17 of the Smithfield UDO, and that's attached as part of the exhibit application that they have submitted. Staff has made one recommendation on approval that the applicant provide a detailed site plan that meets and exceeds all minimum development standards found in the UDO. The planning board's recommendation in its April 4th meeting was unanimously recommend approval of conditional use permit for the construction of a 72-unit multifamily apartment complex and on property located within the B3 zoning district. So with your approval of this conditional use permit, the applicant, upon receiving funds to construct the project, will go through the UDO development process, which is detailed engineering plans and architectural plans. It will be reviewed by staff, public works, public utilities, as well as the county building inspector. So you're asking to take consideration of that and stand over for questions.
Any questions from the panel?
This may be redundant, but the drawing in our agenda and the drawings you have up there, are they in compliance with our UDO?
In general compliance, we get into the detailed compliance of the UDO as we get into specifics. At this level of time, based on the client not having all the engineering data necessarily for the development of the plan, and it would be kind of foolhardy to spend the money to do that until he knows he's received funding. So what we've asked him to do is provide an accurate survey, which is in the packet. There's a survey of the property, as well as based on that survey to establish the horizontal geometry of the project as best it can be done with the information that he has at this point. As he gets more detailed information, we will refine that, particularly associated with utility, water, and sewer.
Any other questions?
At what point will the reparation fees be paid to the town?
It's private issuance of the certificate of occupancy.
As far as traffic in and out of the subdivision itself, and that's just a DOT issue. As far as the turn lane,
I can only tell you what DOT has expressed in the past is a center turn lane for left turn movements and a decel lane for right turn movements into the property. So coming from the west, from the creek toward the property, it would be a decel lane on the shoulder of the road. And then coming from the east, coming from town to it, they would require a middle turn lane. Now, the geometry of that will be determined by DOT, and that's based on the number of trip generations that are expected coming in and out of the apartment complex. So how big that will be, I can't answer that question right now. Yes.
do you foresee that there will be a turn lane of some sort put into that? Because I know that's can be a pretty congested area, traffic coming in and out of town, especially in the afternoons.
I would perceive it, and based on DOT's past requirements, it will be required.
I would certainly hope that, yes. We really have no control over it, but we have to press to make sure that there is a turn lane.
Yes, sir. We'll do that.
Any other questions from this gentleman? Mr. Applicant, is what you've seen in this document present your request as to what's just been presented by Mr. Gentleman?
Yes, it does.
Do you have questions for either of the applicant or Mr. Gentleman?
Well, I do, just for clarity's sake, and I think I know the answer, but I want to get on the record. Whatever DOT requires out there, I don't want it to be Smithfield's responsibility, like it's become at Smithfield Crossing. So if they require a turn lane, I don't want to approve something to where we've got to do a bunch of work and spend a bunch of money. And so can you tell me if DOT requires a turn lane or widening of the road, that'll be a state expense?
That will be a developer-held improvement with DOT, that they will actually require the developer to post a bond in the amount of the construction. Basically, I think it's 125% of the construction value of the lane. They would have to require a bond to be there. So if for whatever reason the developer were to default in constructing the turn lane, DOT could call the bond and see if it was done.
I would like to make that a part of the condition here.
Just when the council makes their motion to do that, then I would suggest you do that.
Question.
We'll do that just as DOT requires it. I think it's a substantial chance. Now, this is, the problem is it's kind of tricky. These things don't do right with this traffic. When Donald does, so it's just if DOT thinks this is enough traffic. You know what I'm saying? It's surprising what generates traffic. But I don't think this generates traffic. I'm not an engineer. But if they don't require it, then you would require it, right?
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me ask you this. This is just conditional use. Is the site plan to be considered and approved separately, is there not?
The site plan would be separately approved from this, but the council at its discretion could make it a condition of their approval to have a turn lane.
But I mean, they could have more data in the site plan approval that will come back to council and the planning board will not?
No, sir, the site plan, after the council issues the conditional approval, this is not a conditional use district, this is a conditional use permit. Here again, as part of that condition, you could request the site plan after staff finishes its review to come back and you can say amen to it.
What we said, you could require a turn lane now. And I was suggesting not require that because the DOT requires it, because they've got the engineering.
Well, as we continue to develop that area commercially, may not caused by this specific property, but what is the likelihood that DOT can come in and say, Smithfield, you allowed this to develop, you double the size of 210 for the first mile?
I think it would, that end up a conversation with two things. One, I agree 100%, it's a concern, no question. I don't think they would say that. I think they would say we had our chance, we didn't require it. I don't know what there is. I have a hard time believing that a development this size doesn't require a traffic study. I don't know what the count is, but with the traffic-based generation, it's something there'll be at least some measurable study done. And, there's that much concern, you might just want to have them bring back the site plan before it's approved. And also you can make a condition, basically, if DOT requires a turn lane or some sort of decel XL lane, you don't have to bring that back. If they don't require anything, you don't do anything for your own determination. I will say, at least now, and it could change next week in the General Assembly, but right now, the town can't require turn lanes on property within a subdivision. Typically, it has the same standards that the DOT would have typically, but there's a lot of gray area out there, and that can be done. It's not unheard of. We're on a road, we do our own analysis on that and make our own decision on it. But it's a concern, and the unknown, I think, can be avoided by having that site plan brought back. And I'm a little surprised that it doesn't come back automatically once you make a conceptual approval for the conditional use, for a more detailed plan.
Well, can we hear from the applicant on this? Because when we were talking about this, I saw him in the back of the room shaking his head. So he may be able to...
Let me just make one more statement of clarification. The way DOT has expressed it to us, they don't so much look as what the project itself is going to generate, unless it's a big trip generator. They look at the traffic count on NC 210. What happens is DOT's guideline policy, I'm not sure, or rule, I'm not sure which one it is that once the count hits around 9,000 cars, 9 to 10,000 cars a day, they require a center turn lane. It drives it. Right now, the last traffic count I saw on NC 210 was 11,000 per day. It varies from year to year. If you went out there and counted it 2 months ago when the bridge closed, it's probably down to 5,000 because nobody was coming that way because they couldn't get the count. But I suspect you're going to see it mushroom right back up. But when I've gone online and checked it, and I pulled it from Mr. Denning several months back, and the traffic count's been running 9, 10, 11,000 over the last 5 or 6 times they've counted it. And they count it about once every 2 years.
If you come around,
Sure.
And see if the council has any questions for you, address for them, I appreciate that.
Good evening. I'm Mike Weaver. I'm with the Pentagraph Companies out of Raleigh. I actually did bring some other stuff. If anybody would like to see some of our other work that we've done around the state, I'll pass those around to you. I'll take a look at those. First page is just a quick rendering of what we're proposing. Regarding this issue with DOT and the turn lane, I would like to defer to your attorney, Mr. Spence. I agree with him in that we're going to comply with whatever DOT asks us to do. And I believe the car count that Mr. Embler discussed is 9,000 on 210. And if it is up to 11,000, and through our approval process with DOT, if they ask us to put in the turn lane, we're going to put in the turn lane. We do that frequently. So we're not opposed to it. We're not afraid of it. We know that can be something required. And we do know that the traffic count has, jumped back up since the bridge has opened back up. Matter of fact, I was over at the site this afternoon, and it's pretty heavily being traveled through that area. So the discussion is right on point, and we understand that DOT would probably ask us to put a turn lane.
And there was some mention, I guess, about posting a bond. Is that?
That's a requirement.
So that will happen.
Yes.
Okay. My next question is, and I guess the concern is there is talk in the legislature now about turning over roads to the cities. So if that were to happen, say within the next 90 days, which I certainly don't foresee it happening, but it is a possibility, I guess, then it really wouldn't matter what DOT said in that instance. It would be on the town. And we do have this legislation that is looming out there. So back to my original question, I think maybe Paul's recommendation of bringing the site plan back before us is not a bad idea. And at which time, maybe we'll have possibly some more information from DOT at that time.
Yeah, there will be several additional meetings to come after the conditional use is permitted. Obviously, your architectural review process, we've got to follow that. We've got to comply with the UDO plan. And so we're fully expecting either the state or the city or the county is going to address this issue with the road. So we're not going to be surprised by it.
Okay. All right. So, Paul, this is another question back for you. When the site plan is submitted, it can come back for the council, and then at that time we can have an opportunity to look at it, hopefully have some additional information from DOT, at which time we can make a final decision on the turn lane. Is that correct?
I will make that a condition of my motion if that's what you say.
Okay. And from what I just understood, that's not going to delay your project any.
No.
Shouldn't delay anything to have to come back before this site plan. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Good.
Yeah, in terms of the type of project, I understand from materials that this is a tax credit project.
Yes, sir.
Which means you get tax credits for the development of the building, but it is not a rent subsidy.
No. These apartments are income capped, meaning that the people that live in these apartments will be restricted in terms of how much money they can make. And typically that's at 60% of the median income for the city of Smithfield and for Johnson County. But no, it's not Section 8 or anything like that.
It's the same thing.
No.
It's the same thing. It's getting tax-free money.
It's subsidizing at a middle income level, Section 8 is the targeted program.
That is correct.
It's a different program, but you're still getting subsidized housing, that's what you're asking. Getting subsidized housing based on tax-free loan.
We receive tax credits as a part of the process to be able to buy the interest rates down on the loans that we secure to build property with. And that allows us to provide a little bit lower rent than what you would find in a typical market rent apartment community. For example, there are 72 units in this particular project. 32 of them are 2-bedroom, 34 of them are 3-bedroom, I believe. And the rents are going to run from around $400 a month to approximately $600 a month. That's actually pretty much in keeping with the market rents in this area from what we've been able to find from our market study. But unlike a traditional Section 8 property, which is focused on just that type of tenant, we will be going through a process of looking at their overall income level. And again, as I said, we focus on 60% as the median income for this area. You're looking at typical tenants being teachers, police officers, fire department workers, city workers. It ranges across the board, but it is not our intent for this to be a Section 8 property. Not with the amount of money we're getting ready to spend on it. The total project cost is well over $9 million. That's at the planning stage. It'll probably be more than that before it's approved. And as you can see from the photographs, the properties that we build are very, very nice. Many of them have swimming pools, garages. They all pretty much have community centers with athletic facilities inside of them, community rooms for the tenants to meet. Oftentimes they have small libraries in the community rooms. So these are well appointed, lots of amenities, and well constructed. And not only do we have to follow your requirements for construction, but we also have to follow the state's requirements for construction. So the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency will thoroughly inspect the construction from day one, as well as your building inspectors here will do the same. We also plan to have a site manager on site. That's the reason why we're building this office in the middle. And there will also be maintenance staff on site that will maintain the apartments, maintain the grounds, and make sure that they are always looking nice and new.
As far as the management of it, and the screening process for applicants, can you maybe touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, be glad to. We're a very interesting company. Many developers will come into a town like Smithfield and build a community, and then they wind up handing that off to another company to manage their asset. We don't do that. We basically take the property from cradle to grave, meaning that our company, we find the sites, we develop the property, and we manage the property ourselves. We own the property, we manage it ourselves. We have about 156 people in our management division of our company, so it's actually our employee on site, not a second party or third party that's managing for us. So the owner of the property has direct personal contact with that property. That's what makes us much different than most other companies that do this. Most of them are developers and most of them are property managers. We are actually all three. We're the construction company, we're also the developing company, and we're also the management company.
You do criminal background checks?
Thorough criminal background check. Most apartment communities that you walk up to today, especially conventional properties, you can pretty much get approval to move in that apartment same day. Typically, it takes us about 2 weeks to get you approved, because not only do we do a thorough national criminal background check, we also do a landlord background check, we also do an employment background check, and we also ask for references. And we also look at your bank account. We're going to look at you, we're going to run a credit report on you. So we look at you every way we can to ensure that we're not placing someone in that apartment community that's going to be a problem for us or for the city. And luckily, we don't have problems.
Y'all don't get any tax credit on local property tax, do you?
Pardon me?
Y'all don't get any tax credits for local property tax purposes, do you?
No. We will work with you though on historic tax credits. If you've got some you want to award, and let us take some of your older buildings and turn that into housing, right behind here.
I was getting ready to say.
We've actually looked at that building, and we've ridden by it a couple of times, and we find it to be very interesting. We think it would make a fantastic senior property. It probably would not work for the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency tax credits, but historic tax credits, they're often issued by local municipalities. We do those, and that would be a fantastic location. I'd love to talk to you about that outside of this issue. One thing about our property, one thing about our company, if you're a tenant in one of our properties, your rent is due on the 1st of the month. You're past due on the 5th of the month. And if you've not paid your rent by the 15th of the month, I'm taking you to court. And by the 30th of the month, I'm trying to get you out. So I'm not going to play with you. If you have a drug problem, if you have a crime issue, if you're not paying your rent, if you're destroying the property, if you're causing me or you any problems, we're going to be talking to your magistrate on a regular basis. Hopefully I don't have to talk to him at all. But it's a very methodical process. It is a process for us. It's not personal. It's business. And our approach to it is a very business-like approach. And it works well. Thank you. You got any questions? Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter?
Just something to kind of amplify what Mr. Moore was saying. And there may be more documentation out on it, because it's been weeks since I read it. But DOT's giving back in the roadways. We're basically talking about state route roads like Buffalo Road and Booker Dairy Road, and not NC numbered highways and not US numbered highways. Now there will be some exceptions to that, but they're talking about state routes, the SR numbered roads.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Not go out of the motion to close the public hearing. Second. Motion is second, those in favor, aye. Those opposed? Okay, public hearing has been closed. You see the findings of facts in front of you.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve findings of fact numbered 1 through 4 as set forth on page 17 of the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor that we approve. Findings of fact, and we have a second. Second, all those in favor, aye. Opposed? Okay. All right.
We need to approve I move we approve the conditional use permit under the conditions we need to set forth. Site plan comes back to us, number 1. Any other conditions?
So at that time, we'll make a decision on the term.
Okay, that form of motion, okay?
Yes, sir. We will approve the conditional use permit with the condition that the site plan come back to us for approval, and also adopt with the conditions set forth by the planning staff. This is on what page?
Well, basically,
I did away with that one.
Okay. You hear the motion, I'm second.
I'll second the motion.
All right, second, and everybody in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Look forward to your business.
I hope we get the award, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Williams, I'll identify you before the public comments this time.
Mr. Mayor, sometime in February meeting, Mr. Skip Green came before us, was asking for a $75,000, offer $75,000 grant to sports on downtown. Well, since that time, Mr. Paul Emmer and Mr. Chris Johnson has called meetings in my community. I didn't receive an invitation when I found out they was having it, and I tried to find out what it was all about. They seem to be giving my citizens the information that they applied for some type of grant to help them remodel homes and things like that. I can see them. But if you notice that agenda packet and the agenda that they gave to us, everything that they asked for was for the downtown development grant. And it was something like they were setting up a home so that they could loan to people in the central business district of the town, not nowhere else. And they've had approximately 4 or 5 meetings. One was at St. Peter's Church over in Belmont, and about 3 or 4 down here in the council room. And basically, every time we have those meetings, all the people who be for the people in the East Smithfield. But this package and agenda clearly states that it was for downtown development and downtown business district. This addition to the agenda was handed to us on the business item number 8 on February agenda, February 5th. You research it, you all got one, but basically this agenda was so large that, and Mr. Green was here, and I don't have a problem with people having meetings where you misinform the citizens, make them think you're having stuff that you're not, then I've got a problem with it. And I've really got a problem with Mr. Paul Emmer and Mr. Chris Johnson, because I feel like they are leading the people to the wrong conclusion. And if you were looking at an additional agenda, it would be the downtown central district. Not only that, they'll seem to set a loan institute, and the town is part of this. And if it is, then that puts the town in limbo with responsibilities to whatever the downtown development people are doing. This should be. And the reason to bring it to you, the reason why I had to discuss it like this, when I found out, when one of the citizens brought it to me to tell me that this was what was going, asked me what was going on, I didn't know. I gave Mr. Paul, the city manager, when he told me, he said, I know what I got training. I said, I don't know what it is. And he got so incoherent that I had to leave his office because he would tell me I had to call and get another council to come to a meeting to find out what really was going on. And every time we've had this kind of conversation, they never discussed and let people know that this was for the downtown central business. Now, if you look at what has happened over the years, the town has given downtown money. They've got grants, they've got everything, and they continue to get a grade. So I don't have a problem with the downtown development, whatever they do, that's their business. But whenever it comes to the town and the town being ordered here, this is wrong. And I ask that the night that Mr. Chris Johnson be eliminated from any business of the town of Smithfield, was his downtown development, I have nothing to do with that. But the downtown, whenever he can come and make citizens think that they are receiving something they are not. And it's not just one meeting, it's more. You got a man coming out of town, from somewhere else. The last meeting we want to change from a CBD grant to something else. You know, so this is what we just about got there. The grant, the people told me we could get money, but he had to change the name of it. And this is not coming from the council. I don't think the council knows what's going on. But in addition to the gym, it was in February, you need to read. You need to want to read. This is just ridiculous. What's going on? And I hope that all of you are reading one, getting one, read, and I have one. And what I want tonight, the town to do I want the town to do receive a audit from the downtown development for the last 5 years. We have been told, we have been the responsibility to the downtown development is to give us a annual report. The annual report will be a financial report, annual financial report. And we are not getting there. Not only are we not getting there, if you read this excerpt, in addition to the agenda, you will find out not only that, they establish a business loan district where they get money and loan it to businesses. But the town is incorporated in it. I don't think the town needs to be incorporated. And then next month, June, I'll be able to make a recommendation. I want one on Paul. I want a thorough investigation on the business that they are doing. I would think they should be doing this without the council getting fully aware of the council. I don't need to come fully aware of what's really going on here.
Anybody wish to respond to Mr. Williams' conversation?
Second, which one do you want to?
I just have a question. Mr. Williams, you mentioned you wanted an order from I think that's what you said, from downtown development. Did you mean like financial statement? Is that, just so we're clear?
Their bylaws that generally give us, that they give us a financial statement at the end of this year. You know, what is 75 days after the end of the year? We don't really get from them. We didn't get our annual report. It's the annual financial report that we're supposed to do.
So you requesting that for last 5 years?
5 years.
That's correct.
Mr. Mayor, also, I'd like for Mr. Green to come back to council and sort of explain what his agenda was on these meetings, if he could, please. I guess Mr. Johnson could do that, partnering with him.
Before Mr. Johnson does, just want to clarify the record on a few things. One, it was a February meeting. There were 2 different applications and grants that were applied for. One was a downtown loan application, revolving loan, whereas you use for downtown businesses. And that one was actually, we got a letter recently, that one was denied actually. So that was a completely different loan program than the other meeting, which I believe Mr. Williams attended, which was basically more of a community planning grant out in the areas away from downtown. And that one, again, we just got a letter on that one too. That one actually was awarded. That program is a CDBG, it's called the Town Enhancement Capacity Building Funds. And that's what Mr. Green, not Skip Green, but the other Mr. Green applied for, and they did just recently receive that grant. The other grant in the downtown area was a revolving loan program, again from USDA. If you remember that one, that was explained at that time, the entity through the town receives funds, they can loan it under certain conditions to businesses developing. When those businesses pay it back, the town basically keeps those monies and can send it out to another group for the same benefit. We were not awarded that grant. Those are two different grant applications, just to clarify. I think the meeting that Mr. was referring to, if I'm not mistaken, I think, and again, that's back to the planning grant, which was actually awarded through that Talent Enhancement Capacity Building Funds grant, again, through the Department of Community Assistance. That one, if I remember correctly, there might have been a defect on the original ad, and I think they also extended the application date on that program. So I think the Department of Community Development or Community Assistance, they requested the entity to just conduct the hearing again. That's why you may not have seen it, but the council did vote and authorize the application and the hearing to be taking place and take that public input. If I remember correctly, there was one, and they had to redo it basically to just meet the requirements. I think the language in the ad had to be addressed a little bit. But that was the reason for the second meeting. But there were two different unrelated programs.
The thing of it is, the only one that we have is the one about the downtown. He did say another grant, he was applying for something else, but who knows what it is? I mean, if you take time to come and explain it to the council, I mean, he called people and was telling them, citizens there, telling them that he was doing something, but he didn't tell them what. I mean, we don't know what he's doing.
He didn't make any comments about that application.
Well, first of all, the revolving loan grant, I didn't apply for. The small business revolving loan grant. The first time I heard about it was sitting in here at a town council meeting. My organization was nowhere. I was completely unaware of that the town of Smithfield was applying for that. I appreciate giving the honor and the credit for doing stuff like that, but I can't take credit for something I didn't do. I did get a call from Garland Burnett a couple of weeks back after the grant had been applied for, asking what it was about, and he told me at that time that it would be denied because we did not have an active project. So he assumed, just like a lot of people assume, that my organization is involved in it because it's saying small business, but my organization didn't apply for the grant. Regarding the grant that we just won, Mr. Green, Wallace Green, because of his relationship with Commerce, received a phone call saying that the ad that we had initially ran, we, town of Smithfield, me as a citizen of Smithfield, just being concerned about that area and wanting to be involved in seeing that community better itself, that's the only reason why I participated in it. I have no financial gain. My organization has no financial gain in it other than it's been identified that corridor of trying to improve the visual looks of it. So I spent my personal time trying to assist a community to do something, and but the ad, the only thing that was wrong was the ad that ran in the paper had incorrect terminology in it. And that Commerce called up Mr. Green saying, Mr. Green, if you have enough time to rerun the ad and have another public hearing for the same thing, nothing's changing, just basically for formality, that we've been able to extend the deadline of the grant for the $50,000 for the planning that we've been discussing. That was all that was is. Nothing was different. Nothing changed, nothing, it was just basically a formality that we had to run the ad and that we had to meet so that we could be included, so that we could potentially stay in the running to win this grant, and I'm glad to hear that we're successful. From that, my organization has nothing to do with it other than trying to be an advocate for the town of Smithfield and for organizations such as Mr. Green's, to then now that we've got the planning grant to then be able to apply for more grants, whatever they may be, whether it's parks and recreation grants or public housing grants or removing blight. You name it. I don't know. I don't have a magic ball. I don't have a crystal ball to know what type of grants that we collectively, we the town of Smithfield, will be applying for, but I'm glad that we've won it. But I'll be more than happy. Mr. Sampson emailed me last week regarding our budget. Listen, I know where every dime's spent, and I'll have that to you by the end of the week. I've unfortunately been busy with the festival this past week, or I'd have it to you tonight. But I'll be more than happy. I can have any financial information. I know where every dollar's spent, and I spend it wisely because I own 3 pieces of property myself downtown, so I look at it as if it's my own.
I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. I feel like we're probably the most open organization there is in the town of Smithfield. I'll stand behind that.
Chris, what about these meetings? You're part of these meetings that Mr. Williams mentioned?
Yes, yeah, I was a part of them because I was called saying that we've got to have these, just kind of being included in the loop. Again, we had a series of meetings. We had a meeting at a church. We had a meeting here at the town hall. And then after the application went in, Commerce reviewed all of the applications that Mr. Green had applied for and realized that the ad that ran did not state something exactly how they wanted it phrased in that ad. And they called Mr. Green and they said, we've been able to extend the deadline for the application. If you can run another ad and if you can have another public hearing, we'll make sure that you stay into the running. Well, fortunately, we were able to do that. We were able to get an ad in. We met here again several weeks ago, and from the sounds of it, we've won because we were able to do that. And we didn't reapply anything. We haven't changed anything in the grant application. It's exactly what we've talked about since January, February when we first talked about it.
At the public hearing, the citizens encouraged by what you were doing? Did they want you to do what you were doing, or did they?
Well, we told them exactly that nothing was changing, and that all the things that they've talked about, whether it's blighted homes, the egress regress that we've talked about, the transportation area and how unsafe it is, all those things. We've talked about water, sewer over in that area. We've talked about drainage. Everything that the community has talked about is still in those talking points. And all it is the grant is now afford that organization to be able to hire somebody to write grants based on what the citizens want in that community.
So Chris, it's my understanding that Mr. Wallace Green was going through this process to try to push through his time restraint on this.
There was a time constraint in the sense that he received a call from Commerce saying that the deadline for the grant application had been extended another, and I'm paraphrasing, another month. And if you can get in if you can have, because of technical reasons, run another ad in the newspaper and have another public hearing to talk about the very same thing that you just talked about 2 months ago, that you can still be in the running. And that's exactly what we did.
And there was no objections from the community?
No, once they came here that night, they realized what it was, because I spoke to several of the ministers that came here, and I said, because actually when a couple of the people that showed up, Miss Wazette, I was kind of shocked that there was somebody that, I said, it's kind of odd that you're here. And she said, well, I'm concerned. I said, well, all this is a formality. I really wasn't expecting anybody to come, because nothing was changing. It was just, like I said, a formality that the state was requiring us to do, just to basically come together and have cookies and a drink and say, this is what we're doing. We're still in the running. We just have to meet for formality purposes and go on. But for some reason, it's got off track that there's been another grant applied for, and that something else has been, that the rules have changed when nothing's changed.
So for the record, the grant, Paul, that you just referred to that we won, what is that grant for?
That's a planning grant to plan for infrastructure. It's a grant to plan to see what's needed in that designated area, which would be that whole district, Mr. Williams' neighborhood, in that district area. There was a map turned in. Paul may give you better specifications. It's a pretty broad area on that side.
Basically, Sandy Run, Belmont, and Pine Acres.
Thank you, that area. And really, the grant was to study and plan what's needed. It could be anything from stormwater to roads to water, sewer.
Anything. That's the whole thing. It's the $50,000 is to apply to hire somebody for 1 year to then write grants for what the citizens want over there.
That actually, so therefore it could be used for a drainage study. If
it could be used for anything in that community that the citizens have asked for.
Now, another question for the record is the grant that we won, is that the same one that we had the public hearing on here in these chambers in front of the board? Is that the one that we had the public hearing on?
We've had two.
I know.
Was that a public hearing or just a vote to have a separate public hearing?
Well, it was brought before, a question basically just brought before the council.
All these applications have been approved in the record in the minutes by the council. This one, the one that was turned down, There's a note we're still waiting to hear on for Arbor Inc. for their building, you recall. Haven't got word back on that one. All those applications and the requirements to advertise will all go to this council.
Well, that's the problem. I hear all this here, but the only thing that I have is one where it says added to the agenda, that's a business number, the one here, we have this one. Now, the one he's talking about where they got, they put in for whatever, where is it at, and where is a copy of it, we see where we know what's going on. You know, I mean, it's good to tell us, it's good to say we got a grant, but where's the application or either the work?
I think that one went back, I'm not sure, I think that went back to maybe November for the approval of this original application. But there was a full application, as I recall, and I'll explain what it was for. I want to say it was November of last year. I can pull it for you, I can get that for you.
Because see, here's the thing about it. See, we're talking one thing, these people come and say, this is what we've done. Now we're going back to September before anything was cool. If he's doing something to help, and this is what the citizens need, but they really don't need to be keep around giving hope, and that's all. They need to be given some substance. I mean, in the March meeting, someone asked, where was Mr. Green? Ain't anybody heard from him. Okay, all of a sudden, there's a few people in the community said they heard it and they were having a meeting. Even they didn't even go out like they was doing a meeting. You know, most people in the community, I said, hey, did you hear about it? All of the people that heard about it, they heard it through discretion. They didn't hear it, you know. And I asked his secretary, because she called me and wanted to have a meeting with me. So when I arranged the meeting with him, he said that out of time he couldn't get back to it. And these things, the whole issue here has been something that you say you want to help this community, you want to do all this thing for the community, but in reality, when we say downtown, we want to do this thing, but after we leave from downtown, the community is forgotten about it. And it should be the same thing. And not only that, you know, all the people in the community should have gotten well, but now a notice from downtown saying we had a meeting. So when you say, well, you got a good response because a few people heard about it and was curious enough to see what was going on. So this stuff is not being coming forthright to the citizens. And if they're not going to come forthright to the citizens, then right away you're going to have it.
Senator, can you pull that older application that you mentioned and make sure that we inform on all those things and any other goings on that we can discuss?
And maybe it wouldn't hurt, Paul, to just kind of put together just a little summary of what has been applied for when it came before the council and basically the status on each one of them, just so that we know. Because I do know that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when Mr. Green first came is when we met at the Shrike. I think it's the first time that I met him, and that has been many months ago. And one thing that we have mentioned as a council is that we did want to apply for grants. And so I'm glad to see that we received one. Though the communication may not have been like it needs to be. That's something that maybe we can certainly work on in the future and take this as a learning lesson to be learned. But I think the first step is to kind of show us where we are in the process, would be my recommendation. And that way, meet with Mr. Williams and also, make sure he's aware of it as well, because this is in his community, and it's only fair to ask.
The first step is to sever all ties with Mr. Green, Mr. Chris Johnson. And if you tell them what to find somebody to do it. this stuff is just got out of hand. And keep right on trying to patch it up.
Well, I could certainly say that I will not be in favor of that. I think Chris Johnson does an outstanding job, not only for downtown, but for our entire community, and he works tirelessly for this entire town. Much of the time that he spends is time that he spends away from his family, from his children, and quite frankly, he's not getting paid to do. I saw him out this past weekend, all hours of the night, setting up for Ham and Yam, and that's an event that drew close to 30,000 people to our town and our community that came here, that spent money here, that maybe stayed in motels and hotels here, ate at our restaurants here, and I don't think there's a better advocate for the town of Smithfield than Chris Johnson. But with that being said, you made a request for the financial statements, and Chris has offered to supply those, and I welcome the opportunity to receive those and review them, though we have seen them. It'll just be in front of us again for a fresh look. That's just my personal opinion, though, Mr. Williams, and you're entitled to yours as well.
I respect your opinion, and I understand, and I understand your feel. But when it comes to my area and the things that's going on in my area, he's not doing anything. He's absolutely a job. I mean, he's probably, and he's hot for downtown, and he's doing a good job, I guess, downtown. But in my area, he's not. That's the reason why the town needs to sever anything with him. If he's not doing it for the whole time, then he's not doing it for any part of the time.
I just assisted with writing a grant for $50,000 that we won. That's more than anything that we've done on the Greenway. That's more than anything that's happened downtown.
And that's specifically for East Smithfield, is it not? It's not for the entire town, it's specifically for East Smithfield.
The gateways into our downtown have long been, if you look at our master plan, has been a vital thing, and I've had meetings with you about the safety of your citizens over that you represent in that community as far as being able to pull out on the 70, and that's something that I discuss monthly.
Okay, what's the $50,000 going to go to?
It's going to go to Mr. Wallace Green's to hire somebody to write more grants for your community.
Okay, but it's still going to get money.
I'm not going to get a dime. The
I'm telling you to get anything. The whole issue here is being confused because everybody's telling how much money they're getting, but nothing is getting done for the community. That's the point. I mean, it don't make no difference. You get $100 million. If you don't do nothing in the community, then it's what good is it? I mean, it's not good for the citizens in that area. I mean, it may be good for everybody else, everybody can come here and see how good you are, but hey, we over here in blood and everything else, and everybody else is out there walking on those streets of gold. Hey, it don't do us any good, do it?
Okay, I think we've touched the point. Does the council have any wish to put this in the form of a motion, or just want to take it in as advisement discussion?
It need to be in a motion. I make a motion. I don't know where you were, and I make a motion. Well, if I
Are you
need to.
putting that in the form of a motion, Mr.
What?
That's what I'm asking you. What, all that you said about severing ties, you put that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor now. Do I have a second?
I ask that we restate the motion so we're clear.
Can you restate my motion?
No, I'm asking you to restate it.
I'm not mistaken.
We have a motion. Robert's rules, can you restate it so the motion can be understood?
Hey, so what can I restate?
Restate the motion so
Okay,
people know what
Dad, I'm not talking about the downtown development. Downtown development. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Chris Johnson working with the town, getting grants or whatever he says he's doing, or whatever development, we need to cut ties with him now. And if we need a person, or we need somebody, we need to hire someone. Let him work in downtown, or whatever they want to do. We need to cut ties with him. And all of that, we need to investigate what we want to do.
Okay, you understand the motion? Okay, is there a second? Not a second, and the motion fails for the second to the motion. Okay, we'll move on to other public comments. Is there anyone else wish to be heard tonight in public comments? Yes, Pastor, come on up. Let's do 4th of July time again.
Well, mine's just a little trivial thing, what y'all been discussing. But I've been talking to Mr. Amber last year at Christmas when we did our fireworks. We do it twice a year. We do the 4th of July at the old tractor place here on the Post Hospital, and we did our church in the kitchen at Christmas time. And we have to set up signs because I never know when Mr. Barnes is going to sell that piece of property. And I've got a few businessmen said if it ever happened, we'll let you set up a tent. We got a fireworks tent, and on my property. So far, Mr. Barnes has been so good to us. We have it there every year. We got it again this year there. But the problem is, people, as I'm doing it just 10 days, 11 days at Christmas and at 4th of July, I need to set up some stick-in signs, all over town so people know where we're at. And without them, they don't know where we're at. I've had people come off the interstate from Pennsylvania and other places up north to buy fireworks. And I asked them, how'd you find out where we were at? I saw the sign. Same way with the lady in Kinley last Christmas. She said, I was going to White's Lawn Barbecue. I hadn't found you, but then I was to go back home. And she saw our church with the signs. And Mr. Embers has informed me last year, he gave me permission about 3 years ago, that it had to be made a law or something. You could ask them all the details about that. And they were very kind to me last Christmas, even though the new man pulled all the signs up. Not all of them, he pulled a bunch of them. Thank God he didn't throw them away. He saved them and I took them back. And but that's what I'm asking, because without those signs, they will not know where I'm at. And it is a major fundraiser for our church. And this is what I'm asking, to make it legal in the eyes of the so he won't pull my signs up. I just want my signs to stay out there.
Last several years, we've granted the church an exception for this fundraiser. We did 3 years ago. Council said they would revisit it. If they didn't have any problems, my recollection, they would reward that again each year. So whatever the council so chooses.
I'm hoping that we allow them to place the signs wherever they have been accustomed to doing.
Mayor, I want to ask an opinion from our town attorney, whether that's a legitimate request and whether that's authorized under North Carolina law.
Well, I think all of it is saying that if you make an exception to an ordinance, you probably ought to amend the ordinance to provide an exception, which would require you to reconsider the next session as whether you want to reword your ordinance to provide for exceptions, and who gets an exception when. So there's a rule rather than having the exception. The larger the town gets, the more formality you get. That's a formality that probably hasn't been done. That is the issue that I understand that you're raising. If you've got a formal rule, and you just don't accept it whenever anybody shows up, you try to set up a rule that allows for exceptions, and you don't introduce that at the same meeting that you put in the ordinance, so that you have a meeting to put it on.
Mr.
It's not a good idea or whatever, I'm just saying that there is apparently, is that right, Paul, the sign ordinance does not permit this?
We do not allow temporary push-in signs except for political signs and real estate signs, that's all.
We don't have a charitable organization exception to that?
We do allow that on the premise, not on the roadways.
I don't have a problem with the exception, but we need to make the exception formal so it applies evenly to everybody.
You would want Mr. Hammer to come back with a amendment to the ordinance.
June 21st is when we kick it in for the 4th of July.
All right, we do have a motion, but we do have clarification and discussion. What says the council?
Mayor, the only way that might better work around that is if, I think we gotta change the ordinance and not get have a whole bunch of different forms in it. It gets to be a very slippery slope, if you're gonna make it uniform for all. But if there's language that's going through the process, and that language would apply to the pastor's situation, I would be unheard of to allow that to take place, again, with special permission by the board, as long as there's a pending application that would fit that situation. I think that will at least be somewhat defensible, as opposed to just ignoring the ordinance here and going on elsewhere.
So what you're saying is the motion could be clarified to, until such ordinance will be amended, it can be allowed to use as fishing, is what you're saying?
Not exactly. Once we get I think the first hearing, that first draft, we can do it and get it done, and it fits what the pastor's asking for, if in fact it does. If the council is willing to allow the church to meet an exception that is, going through the process as an amendment. And we wouldn't have that by. We would have word from that, I think, by the June meeting, which would be, as when I think he used it, at our June council meeting. We need to take action then, but the amendment would be in the system and what has to go through.
Our signs that we put out does have our church name on it, so people know it is our church. And as soon as the fireworks sales ends, they're up. The very next day, I get them out. And don't leave them around for weeks or months or anything like that.
I think you're trying to say administration would look the other way if it was all up to the town board, but this thing needs to be fixed.
Who prepares the application for the amendment to the UDO?
Paul or someone to call through Paul. Time you had a professional planner to do it for this model, or something about that. Then you are going to
Recommendation is to wait for the amendment to go here now versus we have a motion to allow. We have a second on that motion first, I guess. Is there any other discussion? Not hearing a second. Does the board wish to have a manager and the agenda to look at amendment ordinance? We'll show an acceptance.
Do you think an acceptable amendment to the ordinance can be made that would include this situations, but situations similar to this?
As the city manager says, it's a slippery slope. If we allow the Pentecostals to do it, why Scott gives us the right to not allow the folks that come into the Walmart shopping center and sell fireworks to put signs up all over the country? That's the problem that we get. Is where do you draw it? Do you limit it to churches and nonprofits? There's more consideration to it than just saying allow one specific church to have the ability to put the signs up. You got to look at the whole picture of what it could be.
And really, that was the gist of my question. Can we tailor it to nonprofits? Limit the number of signs? I mean, obviously, nobody wants to see 60 signs at the I-95 exit at Rogan Road. But if you limited it to, I think we probably could craft an exception, limited to nonprofits, limited to the density of signs.
The way I do, I have about 30 signs. I put them on 4 Oaks to sell them. I put them to 304, 301. I scatter them out on 210. I put them out on 70 West. I put them on 70 East, and I put some around town. So all those 30 signs, I set as many of the major highways as I can. They're not at one intersection or nothing like that.
and we need some action on what we'd like to do.
There's no way we can work with him, manager, with time constraints that he's under.
Every stop sign violation is going to be a ticket. Okay. That's right. So if you're going to do it, that's what you're dealing with, and you need to consider whether you want to try to do something permanent. And you may come back and vote against something permanent, then you know it's going to happen to something.
I agree, it is a very slippery slope. That being said, I believe in the power of advertising, and just like you said, the signs have brought in business. I see our director of the chamber sitting out there, and he's probably thinking, well, if we're going to allow an exception for a non-profit, then why wouldn't we allow an exception for these other business owners that I see sitting out in the audience as well? So I think it's a very, very slippery slope. When we start doing this, we have an ordinance, and that ordinance was adopted for a purpose. With that being said, I've stated that the ordinance does need to be updated, and we need to look at it, and it's time to update that, and I think we're in the process of updating it. It'd be my recommendation that something like this is needed, and Paul brings us a proposal, and we look at it and evaluate it once we see the language that's drafted, and we vote it up or we vote it down. I'm really not prepared to do anything tonight. I just think that's opening up the floodgates.
That's something we don't have to take action. This is just public comment. We take it as advice and try to see if we can work with it outside of these chambers. But
I agree with your comments, Councilman Moore, but I'll also remind each of us that we have turned a blind eye to political advertising ever since the UDO was adopted.
And we've allowed him to display his signs for how many years?
Probably 15 or so.
I don't know that we necessarily turned a blind eye. We have in the ordinance an exception for political signs. Now, if someone puts up political signs in an area that's not supposed to be put up, I've been down here and picked up many of my signs from sitting right back here, which you said that you did, right? So I don't know that we've necessarily turned a blind eye, Mr. Ashley, but
What our ordinance on political signs says 30 days. I sat here in this council chamber 75 or 90 days addressed to political signs that were already up in the national election. I talked to Mr. Endler about the political signs that were up, and did it violate our ordinance?
And did it?
Bruce, if they're up more than 30 days before the election or within 48 hours after the election, they have.
I think that's the whole point, and something that our town attorney was alluding to about everybody who runs a stop sign doesn't get a ticket.
if I may keep us on task, for this purpose of this public comment, I think I suggest that we'll take it under advisement that the member, the manager, see if they can work up something that will bring back to this council at the appropriate time. Is that consensus of the group?
That's fine.
Okay. That's what we try to do best we can.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for your work in the community. Any other public comments? Look forward, man. If you will, state your name for the clerk so she can record it.
I'm Reed Lotus, and this is my wife, Arlene Lotus. We're the pastor of the West by God Ministry over on Plum Street, 906 Plum Street. And we're here tonight because we're wanting to have a tent revival over at Lee Street Community Park. And Mr. Tim Johnson told us that we had to come here tonight and get it cleared by the time. And The tent revival was supposed to be the 16th, 17th, and 18th. On the 18th, which will be that Saturday, we want to have a little concert and feed the community out there.
Have you gone to the planning department for any type of application?
So Mr. Johnson told us to come here first and get approval, then we'll go to the planning board and get our permission.
Well, I think it's probably good that you did come, we appreciate you coming, but I think to start with, we'll have to go back to the planning department. Ms. Mendler sitting right there, we'd be glad to assist you with that application.
So after we do that, we have to wait next month to get approved?
I'm not sure of his timeframes, but I don't know if it will meet your few days of revival, to be honest with you.
Were you talking about May as far as the event?
Yeah, we're talking May. But if we can't get May, we can do June.
I think we start in the planning department, because there's some noise issues and some sound in the residential and all those things that have to be addressed in the application. So if you start with his office, December, if you'll get to them and give them your notification time, places, we appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
This is something that we've been going over in the community for quite some time. We've been trying to get everyone to have these events in the park. And they can deal in the park, everybody that wants to have one in the park. Because what's happening, see, there's having a test drill on some of the streets and they, you can't get through. I would suggest that we put in our, and it has been approved before, that if a camping like that is held in Smith College Park, if they would do that. I don't see why they have to wait until next month. They will come out having money.
Well, they need to follow the application process. And make sure that it goes to the proper channels.
But I thought we granted, Ms. Mayor, I'm sorry, I thought we granted for situations like this, unless it was something out of the ordinary, that all those could be handled within your department. Mr. Miller, I thought that we granted that.
We have on all,
obviously,
we have on all new events been bringing them to the council for approval for the first time. On subsequent events, we put an information packet in yours. If they come back next year, you'll have an information packet, and you don't, it's not on the consent agenda or the actual agenda. So,
what if they want to have a ball game out there? Would they have to get them to meet?
What drives the permit is, one, amplified music is one thing, and amplified sound if you have a PA system in addition to the music, and then if it's an event of more than 100 people. So, there are several criteria that drive that.
Okay, now, if we're going to do that, let's stick by it and make that a rule. And then you know, if we go to do that, I can understand that would clear the situation a little. Let's make that a rule. And anyone else that wants to have it, let's come to the council. And I guess, especially when you have amplified music, let it be coming before the council so we can be controlled. Am I correct?
That's what we've been doing, yes, sir, for the last 10 years.
Okay.
We routinely pass those as part of the consent agenda.
You have, that's true. On others, you have elected to take them off the consent agenda to discuss. That's been done limitedly over the last few years, but there have been a few that were questionable.
And Ms. Clerk, would you research the minutes though and make sure that I'm almost 100% sure that we passed a motion that these did not have to come before the council, unless, obviously, Paul, it's your discretion to bring it before the council, but I think we made a motion that that it could be handled internally if needed. So if you could just research it and just let us know, but try to get it, try to get it done as quickly as possible. The applicants have said that they can wait till next month. If that's not going to be a huge impact on it, then let's try to get it.
I imagine you're going to have a piano or a guitar or something, but that's in the park. I mean, if it was in the community, I was really to say, hold up, but this is the park. They have ball games, they have everything else out there. And, if you want to have a church out there, I don't see why I might want to put out there and shout a little bit.
Okay. We'll give you. Chris,
I'll be extremely brief. I just want to say publicly thank you to all the departments and the citizens and also the county of Johnson County for making this year's Hammond one of the most successful area ever. Also, I'd like to put this letter as well as the sponsors in the minutes for public record. So, and then also I wanted to present this award to the town with this token of appreciation, but I grabbed the wrong one. Y'all not Carolina Packers. So anyway, I'll bring your acrylic by tomorrow. So thank you very much.
thank you, Chris, for all your dedication this weekend and hard work that you put in. I heard as well as solid, was very successful. Sir?
Mr. Mayor, council members, town manager, attorney, clerk, I'll try to be as brief as I can. You might be a little sleepy right now. Thank you for putting off the discussion this evening about this special tax area. In the recent local paper, there's been discussion about trying to assess or create a special tax district from East Market through the town master property. I could go on for days about how bad that would be for this area. That is an economic engine that drives this town. There's $120 million worth of real improvements that represents 15% of your ad valorem taxes, and that doesn't include personal property. This is just real property versus the whole town's collection of ad valorem taxes. I don't know what the percentage is of sales tax, but if a move like this goes forward, that area and those businesses will have to struggle and compete with others that don't have this tax. They will go elsewhere, and that area will start to look just like 301 through Wilson when Interstate 95 went around it. And once that blight starts, you can't stop it if you're a person. And you're going to kill the goose that's laid the golden egg for you all these years. I strongly urge you to cut your spending, change your priorities, and save this area. They've been paying their way and their fair share. Private development put all that infrastructure in. It's been turned over to the town, and they've been able to generate fees for those infrastructure, water and sewer. So please look elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Again, I'll be brief also, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Tony Nixon. I am the newly appointed chairman of the East Smithfield Improvement Organization, and I just wanted to introduce myself to you all, as we would certainly like to partner with the town of Smithfield and also all the other interests in the East Smithfield area, as it is a major corridor into Smithfield. So we certainly would like to be a partner in any and all decisions as it pertains to East Smithfield. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your affiliation with that organization. It's always been a very good all-inclusive to work with. Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Hank Daniels, owner of the Sleep Inn in Super 8. As Mr. Sherkoff indicated, we have made a substantial investment out there. And I don't always believe everything I read in the paper. But it did sound like that, what I did read in the paper, that is like we're not pulling our fair share of the investments that we've made out there. And I feel like that we have, and we would generate. I know personally, I pay like $80,000 in property taxes, as well as collect a good amount of sales tax and occupancy tax that goes to the county as well as to the city. And so again, I appreciate you not bringing that agenda item up tonight. Give it a little more consideration, and I'll have public input on that. So I appreciate your time.
Hank, may I ask you one question? It's an unfair question, but this is information that I find that most people don't know. In fact, I didn't know until a few weeks ago. Out of every dollar in sales tax generated, take a guess at how much comes to Smithfield.
To the town? Somebody said today it was like maybe 10%.
Of every dollar that's generated in sales tax, 84.39 cents goes to the county. The rest of the money, we'll call it 15%, is split between the various municipalities. Smithfield gets 4.52. So there is a lot of sales tax generated out there, but Smithfield gets very little of it. Anyway, just a factoid for your information.
I have no doubt that there's a lot of sales tax collected out there, and that the town is not getting their fair share of it. But your fight is not with the property owners or the business operators out there. It needs to be with the county or the state legislature. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just public comments.
And just one comment, Mr. Mayor, just to touch on that, and I think that was how this all came up, was just to kind of get the topic and the discussion started. Exactly what Mr. Shalcross just mentioned, trying to start those discussions with the county and with our state legislature, not to all of a sudden adopt this. We did ask Paul to draft some letters. I'm not sure we really intended to draft a letter that said move forward with it. I think really it was to start the process, to explore the process of looking into this and so forth, and what we needed to do. So this is all very preliminary.
Yeah, but the idea that was floated that 12 to 13,000 people are having to bear the burden of the infrastructure out there in that out-the-center region of East Market to Channel Master is not correct. And we do not need to demonize those businesses out there and have the citizens of Smithfield turn against us. They also employ about 1,500 people out there and generate $700,000 worth of. Please, thank you.
Anyone else on the public comment? Thank you very much. We see our consent agenda. Do I have a motion that we accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion is second. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Going on business items. One, bid award additions 2012-13 street resurfacing project. We will recognize Mr. Lynn Branch.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, Town Council. The 12-13 resurfacing project was approved during April's meeting. The actual project came in under budget, just a little under $70,000. I reminded the council during last month's meeting, you guys reserved the right to be able to add to the quantities of the actual contract if you choose to. With that being said, this past month, I met with the contractor to kind of go over some options to bring to you guys so you could debate whether you wanted to do it or not. One of the options that I was thinking of was Vigil Drive. And with the idea of going in and doing some full depth patching and trying to get that road in better shape. And at the advice of the contractor, he stated that at this time it would not be advisable to go in and do that without going in and doing core test sampling of the actual base material of the road, because the actual base could be in a lot worse shape than we're thinking at this time. Our contract states that we require at least a 5-inch full depth patching, and he's thinking that in some areas it could require 3 foot, depending on what those core testing are. So I put that in there in my action form to let you know that I did look into that, and that is something that I want to do. I want to get various core test samples done on Venture Drive and be able to present that to you for more of an intense plan of going in and repairing that road and get where it needs to be able to pass for the traffic that we're anticipating bringing. So another option was to go through the pavement condition survey, just like we did on the first round that we come under budget on, and do as many roads as we can for the actual money that we still have in reserve left over, that just under 70,000. I took the liberty of actually going out and marking the roads, and we came up with 3.5 roads that could be added to the contract this year and still stay within our budget amount, which is the Powell bill funds that we have budgeted for that. Those roads, the half a road, I don't want to discourage it, but it was actually Longview Drive, and what we've already done is went in and crack sealed it with staff, and the half a road, meaning not actually overlaying half of it, leaving the other half, it's just going in and doing some extensive full depth patching, get it ready, and it'll be prepared for the next resurfacing project where we actually just come in and overlay it. We'll have a majority of already the groundwork done. They can pave it. It's going to be in 100% better shape than it was before. Right now it's gated really, really bad, and it's going to have a lot of base work done in it. So the citizens will see a big improvement just with half of it being done at this point. So with that being said, to complete the last option by adding those roads to the resurfacing contract, the price comes in at $66,798.46, which is only leaving $2,859.36 left out of the budget at $290,000. So we're actually utilizing the majority of the funds to improve our city streets. So my action request to the council tonight is to add on these 3.5 roads to the resurfacing project in an amount of $66,798.46.
Any questions from Mr. Branch?
I move we approve the request.
Second.
Motion is second. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Second item, consideration and approval of Resolution 524 to maintain and support current integrity and funding of Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, we've all had the agenda and read it, and I don't know if there's a legal requirement that he's got to come up here and present it, but I would move that we approve it. The adoption of the resolution, if we can do it in that order.
I'll second.
Okay, now motion is second that we approve the Resolution 524. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question though. All right. Tim, can you, just for the record, as far as the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, can you give just a couple of examples of how that's been utilized by the town?
Oh, yeah.
In the past? I think, and the reason I say this, I know a couple of council members have asked, have we participated in this? And just for some educational purposes, can you just let us know how we've utilized this grant, just for the record, please?
Yep, from that grant fund, we have received a little over $1.4 million since probably, well, since 1998 when we got the first one. $952 million in grant money we got from this fund for the Recreation Aquatic Center. We got a phase 1 and a phase 2, which was is not happen very often for the same one project. Now we also got another $750,000 or the remainder of that 525 or 500,000 for the community park. That was in the form of $250,000 grants. So from that fund, we've done quite well.
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Item 3, consideration and appointment of 2 members of council employee benefits board committee. Mr. Paul?
Mayor, if you recall, this was adopted and approved at the end of last year, basically, as part of our employee policy, basically. And we just need to go ahead and take action on this. And actually, the timing's pretty good. The committee wouldn't really meet until we need to take action or provide a review recommendations on the benefits, which is going to come up here in the next 60 days. So timing's pretty good. If you can see, as part of our employee handbook, section 55, the council needs to appoint 2 council members. It says shall be appointed by the full council for 2-year terms starting in odd years on January 15th. So we need to go ahead and get those appointments made for that input of the council for this committee. Really, it's just discussion of council, whoever's interested, whoever's not going to do it, we just really just need anybody wants to volunteer or be voted in, whether they want to announce some votes or whoever got news there.
I think Mr. Ashton
I'm sorry?
I think Mr. Ashton
Okay. Unless somebody else wants to volunteer.
I'll nominate you.
All right, we have 2 volunteers. That's the condition of that form. Okay, all those in favor of letting them be representatives on the committee, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 4, consideration and approval of review for 1-year contract for Petaway Mills Pearson, PA, for the annual audit.
Mayor, this is just a renewal of our present contract with the firm, with the audit firm, Petway Mills and Pearson. Same form as it was last year, and this is really just a renewal for the year in question.
You've heard the request, do I have a motion?
Move to approve it.
Second. Motion and a second. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 5, motion to approve agreement with EnviroLink for temporary services with public utilities.
Mayor, I think I was back there. Mayor, EnviroLink is a firm that we've used from time to time to fill spots, primarily at the water plant. A lot of testing, chemical licenses are required to perform those. And we've used them on and off, I think, for some time now, just as needed. They said that, and actually we asked if there could be kind of some set rates, which is a good thing for everybody. They provide us with this standard contract, which kind of just lays out, you'll see just some rates for the different qualifications of certification that we may need. And we really need one that we had to appoint even this week, starting yesterday, to perform our chemical test. We would ask you to approve this contract. You can see how the fees are set forth there. And basically, those are just as needed, and we can cancel the contract immediately anytime we want to. So it's not a year or 2-year contract, it's just an as-needed contract. Really what it gives us a reference sheet so we know what will be charged for a certain level of service by a temporary employee. So really, it's basically a temporary service, if you will, for the water treatment, and that's all it really is. And we can't cancel immediately as needed. We have to pay for our service where you can cancel it going forward at any time. Earl, is that?
It is. Basically, there's two agreements there. One's a master service agreement, and the other one is what they refer to as a task order. As you know, we did lose our chemist this past week. We currently do not have one, so we hope to use EnviroLink at least temporarily until we can either get a chemist or maybe just outsource it altogether.
My experience with EnviroLink doing several years back, around this time of year, 4th of July, we had a very messy 4th of July. There was some water damage. They took us by the neck and brought us out of it. They're very good company, and they're very, very good standing in the community in this too.
Paul, as the town manager, you'd basically be the administrator of this document, or this contract, and make sure we won't use people longer than we need them under this agreement. Yes, sir. You looked at these fees and they're
Absolutely.
fairly known?
They're one of the few, if not really, convenience-wise, the only firm that offers these services, in this area. Look around, really, there's none of that was, not saying there aren't other firms that can do it, but none of that will really add our technical basically as needed. And we don't, it's a trade-off, when you lose somebody, you have a salary amount. I won't say it's a savings, there's a lot of inconvenience, it is a little bit, as you know, the temporary service is a little bit disjointed at times, but it feels like, for the time we need it, so.
We'll have a motion to approve this master agreement.
So moved.
Motion and a second, those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you, Earl. Item 6, consideration of RFP, primary health and ancillary employee insurance brokerage firm. We have a concern at the beginning of the agenda. Mr. Lee, would you care for us to readdress your concern or request, or would you like to hear information?
If I'm not mistaken, the manager said we could discuss that in closed session?
Yeah.
Okay. Due to legality reasons?
Qualification issue.
Yes, and we need another closed session on potential litigation, so there'll be 2 litigation we just have less than 5 minutes.
Yes. If you don't mind, can we add that?
Yes, we do the contract negotiation and that.
Thank you.
I guess we'll address the closed session after the regular session. Okay. We'll move into the, I'll get my report later. Council members' comments at this point.
I noticed that on the 7th down here, Old City Plan, I noticed the last 2 days I didn't see in the video. But before that, there was washing trails, and paint trails out there. And I don't know whether you got that straightened out or not. But hopefully, there's no trails out there today. And I hope that gets worked. One little thing, I don't think nobody needs to drive a transfer truck to Longport. Now on Sunday, Smith Farms Park, it's about this time of year. Every Sunday, they have people pulling down there on the Blunt Street, tractor trailer. A lot of people are kind of upset because they had to pay for that, improvement. And, I noticed Sunday you have a traffic control sitting out there. And I think that we need to try to, if it was delivering something, that's standard. And in the community, but whatever is not delivering, it shouldn't be in there. It's tearing up the street. And if we don't do something now, we'll be looking for lady to go out there and patch it up. So we need to get those tractor trucks not be in there. It seems to be on a Sunday, or normally car after 1 o'clock.
Chief, is that something you could ask your gentleman officers just to see if they see a truck unauthorized in that area?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the council? Go ahead.
I was approached last night regarding the construction over in Pine Acres and the work there. That's on Old Goldsboro Road as far as the drainage and so forth. So I talked with Paul today and went over and viewed the area, and it is in dire need to have some improvements made quickly. And I know we received actually, I think, an email and some correspondence from actually, I think, Mr. Nixon back on April 10th, I believe. So I was just going to ask Paul if he could share with us what he found out today as far as from the contractor and so forth. When they intend to make improvements to that area and what the holdup has been.
We had our monthly construction meeting today on the park, which was a good time. On the roadway project. And the contractor is committed to grading down the construction area placing seed on it and straw between Pine Street and Oak Street by Friday of this week, weather permitting, and also patch the pavement where they open cut the pavement to put the storm drain pipe in, to have that done by Friday, again, weather permitting. The remainder of the construction from Oak Street back up Old Goldsboro Road toward the Hess store and the Waffle House. It's a little bit of delay in there. We're waiting for Progress Energy to come in and do some line relocation. They actually got there this afternoon. We weren't expecting them until about the 20th of this month. They showed up this afternoon, relocated that, so we're only having to wait now for Time Warner Cable and CenturyLink to come and relocate to the new poles. As soon as that's done, they can finish laying the pipe up the remainder of Old Goldsboro Road behind the Hess store, and then they'll grade that down. The pipe they're laying out there on the shoulder of the road, those will be removed also.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is it regarding the Time Warner and the phone line? Is that something that we can do?
That is, it could be a possibility. We will have to look and see if we can, if there's enough stretch in the cable to actually move it from, we had to move the poles back about 6 or 8 feet, and if there's enough line there to move it back, there's a potential that we might be able to do that.
If you don't mind, if you could check into that, that might save us a little bit of time, waiting on Time Warner or whatever.
Yeah, it appears that the lines are probably dead lines.
All right. Thank you, and I just, I ask that you stay on that and make sure we've got good weather. If you will, please stay in contact with those, with the contractor, because,
okay,
appreciate it.
Any other comments? Yeah.
Yes, Mayor, just briefly, I just have some concerns about the N shooting over the weekend, and just like to ask that if our police chief maybe research some data and share with council in that area, the number of incidents we have out there due to patrons, taxpayers out there. I have very concerned with their safety out there in that area with these incidents. If you don't mind.
Thank you, sir. I agree.
Mayor, I have a praise. I want to thank, it's already been mentioned, but I want to thank Chris Johnson for his efforts. We had the Ham and Yam Festival this weekend, and it's probably one of the best yet. And I too, like Andy, I saw him working. I joked with somebody that I think Chris worked 48 hours a day for several days, but it was a wonderful event. An event this town should be proud of, an event that puts this town on the map for a lot of people. The community enjoyed it. You just walk around, look at the people performing on stages, be it dance groups or church choir singing, or the vendors, kids selling food and items to raise money, churches selling food and items, civic clubs. It was just a wonderful event. So thank you for your efforts.
Anything else from me? Mr. Manager, I recognize you for your report at this time.
Mayor, just briefly, you had the update report from the departments. Just want to touch base. I think we all are well aware of the Highway 70 bridge opening. Just want to let the public know, it's been reported before that there will be several more weeks, if not a couple of months, of continuous construction on the rails and some other things to be tidied up. And hopefully there'll be some funds that will be dedicated for some improvements on the entrance to the bridge on the west side of town. So hopefully that'll be forthcoming. Some of the monies that have been set aside for that beautification will hopefully help with the DOT will come through and do that, and DOT will handle that portion of that if that money is approved, which the latest word is that it should be approved. Other work continuing on the water reuse line back in the South Smithfield neighborhood, and hopefully that will be not completed, near very near completion right now. A few weather delays with the rain the last 2 weeks have slowed down, but I think that's getting pretty close. Other projects that were approved last month, most of those have been completed. I think with reference was many special events that were permitted. That was completed. Subdivision were wrapped up for Mr. DeBoer and Mr. Wall. Those are essentially complete now. Mr. Branch has completed the addition to the street servicing project. And I think he mentioned in his report during that time, but just so you know, now that that's approved, the contractor I think will be out Plenty, I mean, almost immediately, won't take the next 2 weeks.
They were waiting on the ruling tonight.
Yeah, so they'll start there almost immediately on that resurfacing. Might take them several weeks to get through that. The resolution that was approved last month, the one regarding protecting the state revenues, the clerk did finish that out, it was signed, and it was sent off to our respective local state delegation, looking for help on keeping the revenues to the towns and local governments neutral on those. And I mentioned before on my previous reports that the resolution number 522 that terminated the Wooten contract on the Part A portion of the Crossings project that was completed and sent to DOT for processing. They have, I saw them last week, they have completed that termination with the Wooten company. I think Mr. Emory gave you kind of most of the Smithfield Crossings project update. I think he's filled everything I've got in my report. Just to reiterate, for A, they've got the curb and gutter on the Street A and Main Street. It's scheduled hopefully pave Street A with base course of the asphalt, backfill the curbs, fine grade, seed and mulch, and construct the 17-inch storm drain from Oak Street to Hess. And that was a result of today's meeting update that we had every day before the council meeting. I'd also like the council know that I spent all day along with the utilities director and also Jay from the utility building at the electricity's office today in Raleigh. You've heard me speak a good bit about the smart grid metering. Today was really the first official day where they talked about actual references for vendors and the presentations made on those products today for the first time. I believe Earl and Jay will probably return tomorrow to hear a little bit more of it. I probably didn't make that, but they did the essential presentations today. So again, it's been a long way for that, so we are moving forward with that. They did a good job. It actually is fairly complicated. We're going to have a discussion on that in a little more detail at our budget workshop on May 20th. I'll have a few more facts to give you an update on that and see exactly where we are with that. Some good news, some is very tedious. It's going to take a little bit longer than anyone had anticipated. And so we're trying to still get a better idea of the actual cost. And now that we've narrowed down the vendors, every city, town by town, will have to get kind of an audit and the actual fee for what their cost would be, town by town, and in terms of what they need exactly. Every town's needs are slightly different, so that will be our next step. We'll probably do that with at least one vendor, and we could go with the one that's been primarily recommended by electric cities, or actually with the top 2 or 3. The problem is when we start going down the list to the next 2 or 3, they don't have all the things that the first one has. We'll talk about that in more detail. I just want to give you an update on that project because it's a pretty big decision. It still looks positive, like the right thing to do, the right move to make. But the cost is substantial, so something we need to look at hard. I think the revenue benefit, it will be outstanding, but it's an expensive investment. We don't know the final amount now. It's looking now to be somewhere in the mid $1.5 to pushing $2 million for the whole cost of those meter changeouts. That's pretty much in the ballpark figure since we really entered into this RFP at that estimated cost. So that really hasn't changed. And if you recall, we actually budgeted $250,000 this year, and approximately that amount, a little bit less for next year. Without you being, we would fund that partially for approximately 5 years until we get it paid for, or at least get a good start in terms of funding that project. So again, that project is moving forward in that sense. Kind of our decision-making time, I still think it's probably close to 60 days away, but it's getting closer to that. We actually have been given the county information for the first time starting today, and we'll get more and more in the coming weeks. So, Mayor, that's all I have. Okay.
I got just a couple of things to wrap up with very quickly. We met with a group of mayors that provided us with county leaders to discuss economic development and the current model which they are using versus what some of our neighboring counties are using, how to maximize that model so that Smithfield will be identified readily in the economic development. And they'll be coming back and we'll be getting back together with a plan to try to work together something in more detail. We also met with elected cities here at this office in Smithfield with other mayors of different communities, Nesson and so on, to discuss ways that we can work more efficiently and some of the current legislation that is going forward now, how that could impact us as far as rates as well as other any transmissions that may happen that will affect Smithfield. Graham Edwards came down and had a very lengthy, about 2-hour discussion, I guess it was, and very informative, and I think we'll hear more out of that. Out of that same conversation, you've heard us say how we're working with other towns to work together on items. A term came out that you'll probably hear a lot more about, regionalization, product and things between Selma, Benson, and Smithfield. It's going to be something that, for example, if Benson needs a transformer and we have the same transformer on the ground, then they could use our transformer. In other words, we wouldn't have to have 30 out there at one time waiting in all 3 towns. So it will save inventory controls as well as labor that may come out later. So that's something big that I think will come to fruition. One last item that I wanted to go ahead and get on record tonight, because time is fleeting from us as to the forthcoming electoral process. I've been thinking of ways of how to discuss this, but I just wrote down some little notes today as I was laid up with my leg after injury. You know, I like history, and I like a lot of biblical history. So I read a lot of things like King Solomon and some of the wisdoms that he bestowed upon some of the writings. And in chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes, King Solomon, who was believed to be the writer who inspired those words, have the people to have a point of perspective, and that in their life, there's a time for everything. Knowing this and believing that, these words are true for every person, for every place, and for every circumstance. It helps me tonight to announce that it's time for me to focus more toward my family and my business. In just a few weeks, it will be time for the filing of municipal elections in our community. And after much prayerful thought and conversation with my family, I want to let it to be known that I will not be seeking a 3rd term as mayor of the great town of Smithfield. I've enjoyed my service as mayor, and I feel we've accomplished a lot towards providing a better quality of life for our residents, as well as opening business opportunity in our community. Serving as mayor has been one of the greatest privileges I've had in my lifetime. And I would like to thank my family, first of all, for sharing me with the community and the time that I've spent away from them over the last 16 years as district councilman too, as well as mayor these last 4 years, almost 4 years. I'd also like to thank all the citizens of Smithfield who encouraged me with their prayers and support, pats on the back, calls during the good times, as well as the challenges. I was asked recently, this past weekend, in fact, by a close friend who I confide in, and told him that I would probably not be seeking re-election. He said, "Danny, what in the world are you going to do with all your time if you're not the mayor?" And I said, "Well, time will tell." But he come back with this statement. He said, "Well, knowing you will find a more meaningful way to give back to your community because that's just your nature." Well, that's probably true. And I will continue to serve and give back. I want to thank you for this time, and I encourage the council that's on here today, and those who will be filing for the mayor's seat as well as other open seats, to look forward to serving a great community with a great people. And I will continue to pray for those who will fill these seats and those who fill it now with wisdom and strength for their guidance. And again, I thank you for the opportunity for this moment to share this, and I just wanted to get it out there so people could go ahead and be thinking about what positions they'd like to follow. Okay? Thank you for that indulgence. And I think now we have mention of a closed session to discuss potential litigation. Do I have a motion on the floor to do that? Contract, sir.
Move we go to closed session pursuant to Statute
143-318A. 11. So moved. Second. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.